speaking of drama, we should touch on Season 4 of the F1 Drive to Survive Netflix series that was released last weekend. I think it was really cool to see what footage they were able to capture. They really do have some great stuff in there, and I think they kind of know it with how they littered it through the trailer and how they paced the episodes. It's not really until the end of the episode that they kind of release the amazing behind-the-scene footage that the series has become so well known for. A lot of it is journalistic rhetoric, a lot of it is interviews and dramatic kind of little monologues and quick cuts and sound effects and stuff. But you need that to some extent to make F1 dramatic, and I think there's a lot of diehard fans that will say, oh, how dare you? We need to understand that this is an incredible series and the detail and the storylines are all there in the sport and they don't need to be hashed up for TV. But the reality is that there's plenty of people in the world that aren't Formula One fans, that do not care about Formula One for the tiniest bit. You need to figure out a way to appeal to those fans, and of course there's going to be some costs to doing that in the hyperbole and the polarization that the series brings about, the kind of reductionist attitude of just the drama without full, fair context, you know? But it's very kind of publicized now that the series probably does more good than harm in the new popularity. I mean, we saw, the 2021 US Grand Prix. We spoke to the photographer Jamie Price about that, and he told us all about what the atmosphere was like there. And to say that the Netflix show has played a minor role in that is a huge understatement. You can draw the lines very directly between the increase in that show's popularity relative to other shows on Netflix, relative not only to other sports documentaries, maybe like the Michael Jordan series or Last Chance U or the cheerleading one, things like that. Netflix has become really, really good at these kind of short edited sports documentaries. But relative to all content on Netflix, the Formula One show stands up in viewing numbers, and that's really, really powerful for our sport. And we need to understand that you got to forgive a little bit of the cost sometimes and have a little fun with it. And if you know that the F1 Netflix series isn't that accurate and you don't like it and it makes you annoyed to see Verstappen cut out of everything and Hamilton always be given that fair show and have that two-handed battle between Red Bull and Mercedes be fired up like it's the most dramatic thing ever in the history of sport and it's a war between these two titanic villains. It's nothing like that, really, but it's cool to do it on a TV show, and I don't mind it, but no one's forced to watch it. And if you are watching it and you love the series, then welcome in. Welcome to Formula One, because we're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have these new fans. We have to appreciate Formula One's place among other sports in the world. And having new fans is never really a bad thing, but you have to introduce those fans in the right way. And we know the Netflix series can go wrong sometimes, but Formula One can go wrong sometimes. And we love the times when it goes wrong and crazy stuff happens. And that's what the people that watch the Netflix show want to see too. So I don't think you can be that mad at it. I kind of liked the season 4 at least. The scene where Toto Wolff hands George Russell effectively his Mercedes contract, and we see that hug and that handshake and the emotions from George Russell, knowing that he's going to be driving against Lewis Hamilton, getting that confirmed. I mean, that's a beautiful moment. That's a guy's dreams coming true right there. That's pretty cool. And I know that the Netflix show has those downsides, but capturing moments like that. We saw last season the phone call from Christian Horner to Sergio Perez saying, "You're now a Red Bull driver, welcome to Red Bull." That's a brilliant, brilliant moment. And to have access to that, the Netflix show is kind of the only way you're going to get it, because you have to make the show popular for them to justify letting the show in to that extent and giving them that behind-the-scenes access. Netflix had that footage of George Russell getting signed, him and Toto having that conversation, long before the Mercedes public announcement ever happened, but they have to sit on that. And Mercedes know that Netflix aren't going to leak it. They have that trust in Netflix as a big entity that Netflix want to kind of store up all those golden moments for their own show. Netflix has to deliver that value and capture those moments and present them in a way that's engaging to a big audience for the F1 teams to let them film that kind of thing. And I want to see that kind of stuff because I just think it's cool to have that access to understand what's really going on. But of course, the Netflix show does kind of hit both ends in that it shows you some of the really cool, amazing behind-the-scenes access, but then it shows you some recutting of the Grand Prix that seems to be hugely distant to what actually happened. I mean, we saw the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 4, but they didn't put in any of the Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso battle at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was some of the best racing we've been treated to all season. I think you should show that to a Formula One fan if they're going to be adopted as a new fan and love the things about the sport that are truly amazing, and seeing these guys on the peak performance level. That battle in Hungary is a great example of that, and to not put that in the show, I think is a bit of a crime. But the final episode, the episode about Abu Dhabi and the conclusion of this incredible season, I think, to be honest, the final episode was the best episode of the whole show. They did a pretty good job, I thought, by capitalising on all that drama, all that controversy of the final race in a way that wasn't too far from the truth, really, or at least the truth we know at the moment. Of course, the FIA investigation into that is still yet to come out, but everyone has been dying to know what happened in that race and what really went on. And we got a little bit of that shown there, and we got the emotions from Lewis and Max after the race and the celebrations from Christian Horner. Christian was kind of the main reference for Red Bull because Max Verstappen had actively chosen to not be a part of the Netlifx show because of the downsides we spoke about earlier and the hyperbole and the dramatization of it. A lot of the Red Bull story is told by Christian, and of course, all of that's framed in a certain way through Christian's personality and what he's like, what he's so passionate about in the team he's built at Red Bull. We know from our interview with Jonathan what a brilliant team dynamic they've got over there. And I think that really shines through the passion that Christian has for his team and his devotion to racing performance at almost any cost. I mean, there's a little bit of that in the final episode where we look at both Mercedes and Red Bull really throwing the book at each other and finding every little way to throw the other team off their game. I love that kind of stuff, and I think Netlifx did a pretty good job with all of that in the final Abu Dhabi race. So I would highly recommend checking out the Netlifx show. Realistically, it's better understood with that framing of what its purpose really is to the sport, and you have to know a little bit about the reality of the sport to kind of take in some of that drama in context. But I'm really excited to have some new Formula One fans on board, and I think Formula One can really benefit from new perspectives because we've seen many, many times in the sport, the kind of old eyes, the old way of doing things isn't always the right one. And with these new package of regulations and with the new Formula One fans from the series, we could be in for a really, really brilliant 2022. So here's to Formula One, here's to the Bahrain Grand Prix. I know I'll be watching.